We're going to be talking about Spain today, specifically about the Spanish Golden Visa, and we'll get into specific details in the following minutes. Just very briefly, I'd like to introduce myself and obviously to introduce Dusan as well here today, who's going to be helping me in going ahead with this webinar here today. So first of all, my name is Riccardo Ippoliti, and I'm located in Spain, which obviously makes more sense about talking for this type of visa here today. I'm based in Malaga at the moment. I'm a lawyer registered in Spain as well, and I'll be your point of reference for Spain from now onwards. Dusan will be taking part as well. I'll leave it to you then later, Dusan, anyway, to get into more specifics. But Dusan is head of sales at Oriens, and he will be talking about the specific investment options, are the most interesting ones for you out there. And obviously we'll get into more specifics as we jump into the details of the visa. Briefly, obviously, a bit of an introduction for Holborn. First of all, Holborn is a wealth management firm, and in the past years, we've been focusing on alternative investment options as well. Reason being is that obviously the world has changed, and based on the changes and everything, in some cases it can be good to secure through an investment an additional passport or a residency, and that's the reason why we're here today. Okay, so obviously Holborn has experts all over the world, and we're going to be here to assist you within each stage, depending on where you are and depending on which phase you are for the entire procedure of when it comes into the visa application process. Okay, so having said this, again, welcome. Let's move into the specifics of the topic of here today. So, Golden Visa is the topic of today. It's not actually the formal name, okay? If we're talking about Golden Visa, it's more about the type of achievement that you and your family will be getting at the end of this journey. It's actually Visado de Inversión, so it's an investment visa that was introduced in 2013, so a little over 10 years ago by the Spanish government. Throughout the years, it has attracted a lot of investments, and I believe, on a personal note, that it will be more and more popular starting from now. Reason being is that there are similar countries, and not to mention any others, but obviously that I've had success throughout the years, but they're making laws stricter, more complicated, and therefore putting it on scale. I believe Spain is going to be even more and more interesting for yourself and for your family. And obviously I'll have some feedback on this from Dusan as well. Now, before getting into more specific details here, just very briefly how this type of visa works, okay? So there's countries that obviously have elaborated visa programs that through an investment specifically, you become eligible to go ahead in obtaining permanent residency, in some cases even citizenship directly. And it's done by satisfying certain requirements and obviously making an eligible investment to actually secure this final result. When it comes to Spain, there's various ways of getting the ultimate result. I'd like to start by, first of all, understanding what this visa does not require. Okay, there's certain countries, if we make a comparison, that need you as the main visa applicant to satisfy age requirements, language requirements, skills, and so on. Okay, so this is not the case when it comes to the Spanish Golden Visa. This doesn't mean that it's easy, okay? So obviously we're making it as easy as possible for you today to obviously explain it to you. But the most important aspects here is to understand that obviously you must be over 18 years of age, okay? That's the most important thing, but there's no age cap in terms of, going over a certain age doesn't make you eligible, okay? That's not the case. There is no English, well, in this case, Spanish, I would say, Spanish language test to be taken in order to show your integrity, your capacity of being integrated in the society here in Spain. But obviously, the most important part here is understanding what type of investment has to be made. Okay, so there are specific type of investments that make your application eligible to go ahead. And obviously we'll get into this in a few minutes. But what is important to understand here is that we make sure, and we do this at the beginning, we do a pre-evaluation check that we tend to call the stage 0 of the entire process here. What does this mean? We're going to be doing a check for yourself as the individual, as the person, as the main visa applicant, mainly to understand that you've got no criminal record. If there is issues of this sort, this doesn't necessarily mean that you're not eligible for the visa, but obviously it has to be checked on a case-by-case situation. After having satisfied the aspects regarding the person as the individual for yourself and for your family members, the other part that is obviously very important is to understand what is the source of funds. Okay, this is very important. We were talking about this with Dusan the other day. Spain doesn't want to be nosy in the sense that they want to understand exactly what is your portfolio, what are your assets in general. Okay, so it's not about getting into so much specifics here. It's understanding where the funds that are going to be, for which you're going to be making the investment come from, and depending on the amount, obviously that's where we have to show the source of income, the source of funds. Okay, so that's the most important part there. Once that is cleared, we will understand that, yes, we can give you the green light to actually go ahead and move forward to the next steps. Okay. Now, the next steps obviously start getting into the heart of this webinar here today. For the Spanish Golden Visa, there are different types of investments, and again, Dusan will help me here in the following minutes. The investment types can be of different types. The most common one, and I would say probably the most interesting by all means, is the purchase of a real estate. This could be residential property or commercial property as well. Talking about the law, it is eligible even if it's a pre-owned house, so it doesn't have to be a newly built house or apartment. But obviously, again, there's different type of options here that are going to be interesting, because obviously there are buyback options as well when you're going to be followed by the experts here. Now, when it comes to the purchase of the real estate, what is important to know here is that the investment is of 500,000 euros. Okay, so that's the amount. It could be obviously more, but that's the minimum requirement. And for the achievement of a visa of this sort, obviously, it is balanced by all means, and it does make sense. Okay, so the property, the market is going up, and it has been for the past years. So obviously, this makes sense by all means. There's a second type of option in terms of investment, which is the option of transferring funds in the amount of €1 million. Okay, so it makes a difference here. So you can deposit the funds and then decide what to do. Otherwise, you can make a capital investment into a business or into shares. And obviously, in that case, you will have to be assisted by the experts here in understanding what type of investments to make. There's a third option, which is the possibility of investing, and we're going up here again in terms of amount. That's the €2 million option for governmental bonds. Not much of a popular option, this one, to be honest. The returns here are not that incredibly exciting, and again, we're looking at something that obviously can be a good investment for you. So that is something that is not very popular. There is also another option of an investment, which is the possibility of proposing a business plan for a specific type of business. Again, a little bit exceptional, a little bit rare. It has to be quite innovative, and so obviously, that would have to be checked again on a case-by-case situation. What we're focusing on here today on this webinar is the first option. The reason being is that the first option gives you something that is tangible. Okay, something that you can actually see, you can actually live in the place, you can use it, you can rent it out, and you can start renting it out immediately, obviously depending on the licenses and everything, depending on the provincia where you're going to be staying. For this part, obviously, I'll leave it later to do some. I'll just move forward a little bit. What happens next? Well, once we've understood that you and your family are eligible, okay, and we've understood through the experts what is the type of investment that you want to invest into, well, then the next step is actually making sure that we can set you up with the tax file number here in Spain. Okay, so tax file number in Spain is called a NIE. We can do this for you on your behalf. Or otherwise, you can come here to Spain. We can meet up in person and help you in setting up the NIE and the bank account as well. Or otherwise, there's the beauty of the power of attorney, obviously, and we can do this for you without coming or having to come to Spain. Once you've got the NIE, then you start existing. Okay, so you start emerging and you start existing for the Spanish authorities, and that will give you the possibility when you're ready and when you've found your investment to actually transfer the funds. Okay, so in this case, let's talk about the 500,000 euros. You can transfer the funds, and then we'll take care about the paperwork for the actual purchase of the property. And a few weeks after, okay, you'll be becoming the owner of this property here. Okay, so from a legal point of view, obviously, we'll have to wait for the title deed as well as the registry of the property as well. So there have to be the transcription, obviously, of the property in your name. Once that is done, and obviously, this can take a few weeks here. Okay, again, bureaucracy is the same in any part of the world. But what happens is that once we've achieved that, that milestone, and you've actually become the owner of your new house or your new apartment or the investment solution that Dusan will be telling you about, that's when we actually start the visa application for yourself and for your family. Okay, so that's once we get into the more specifics about the visa application process. Now, first of all, who can be included in your visa? So obviously yourself. It can be your partner. By partner, what I mean is your spouse. It can be your de facto partner as well. So Spain does recognize the possibility of having your de facto partner included in your visa application. You can include your children, and they're automatically considered dependents within the family unit when they've not yet turned 18 years of age. We can still include your family, your children, even if they're over 18 years of age. But in that case, obviously, there will be more paperwork involved, but it can be done as long as they're financially dependent on the main family member. And obviously, we will show that they're still part of the family unit. What is also interesting for Spain is that you can also include your family. Okay, so the entire block can move over here to Spain, and you can come and relocate over here. As long as they are still part of the family unit and they are over 65 years of age. Okay, so in this case, there is the age requirement that has to be satisfied for your parents in this part. Now, in terms of the visa application process, what is important here to know is that obviously we'll be gathering all the documents, so we'll be confirming what has been done previously in terms of the pre-evaluation check. But the important thing to know here is that once we apply for the visa, things start to speed up in terms of evaluation process. Okay, so you start actually getting into shape and getting into achieving your golden visa for yourself and for your family. What's the reason here? The reason is that once we submit the visa application, if after 20 days the immigration authorities do not get back to us, then there is what is called the silent consent. So obviously that's a very interesting part here, because that means that 20 days after, so pretty much 3 weeks after the submission of the visa, you and your family can potentially come over here to Spain. And obviously that starts getting a very quick process, and in some cases even probably quicker than expected. Again, some technicalities here for you and for your clients to advise here, or for yourself who's listening. The visa can be applied from onshore or from offshore. By onshore, I mean coming into Spain with another visa and then applying for the visa on your behalf within the validity of your visa once you're here. Or otherwise, we can do it from offshore. So that means that it will be applied from your home country. Once the visa is granted, you will have to come, in any case, to Spain to activate your visa, and obviously to take the biometrics, which is a mandatory requirement to have the possibility of it being identified and therefore start, benefiting from the visa. Now, what do you get? Well, you get a visa that if it's applied from offshore, initially it is of a duration of 1 year. That can then shortly after become a duration of 3 years. And Dusan, obviously, please correct me here if I'm wrong. From the offshore side, when it comes from the onshore type of application, instead, the visa will have a duration of 3 years directly. Obviously, this visa can be renewed. Okay, it will be renewed 3 years after. It can be renewed forever, pretty much. Your milestones here is to understand that 5 years after, you can then apply for permanent residency. Now, this is important, and we were talking about this with Dusan the other day. It is not so much about achieving permanent residency or ultimately even citizenship here. What you need to be aware of and what is important for you is obtaining the Golden Visa. Okay, the Golden Visa is a conditional visa. Okay, so strictly speaking, legally speaking, it is not yet a permanent residency visa, but it gives you access to all the benefits as well, obviously to the obligations as well of what a visa and living in a country requires. But that's when you start benefiting from the beauty of a country like Spain. Okay, so that's when you and your family can come here to Spain. You can look for a job. You can start your own business. Your children can go to school, and they are considered and treated as local students, obviously. So that means obviously a great change in terms of fees as well. Yes, you will have to have private health insurance additionally, but obviously you will be benefiting from the health system in Spain. The health system in Spain works very efficiently, and I can tell you this firsthand. So obviously, it's something that is obviously a plus when it comes to understanding what you're going to be having. Okay, what you're going to get here. So again, we don't have to necessarily look at the residency. But anyway, 5 years after, you'll be having access to permanent residency as an option. During these years, you do not need to be living in Spain. Okay, so it's not one of those countries where they ask you to be present in Spain in order to trigger the possibility of them getting access to permanent residency. So that's not the case. 5 years after obtaining the permanent residency visa, then there is also the option potentially, and if you wanted to, again, not mandatory, of applying for Spanish citizenship. There is a quicker option for certain citizens of certain countries. That would be the Spanish colonies, South American countries as well, and obviously we can take a look at these later on. And in these cases, obviously the option could be a couple of years after obtaining the permanent residency status. Okay, so that's the things that start to change here a little bit. But obviously, what is important here, and obviously Dusan will be reminding you about this, to make this happen and to make this continue to be happening, you must maintain the investment. Okay, so you have to keep the investment open, and that obviously gives you and your family the possibility of remaining in Spain and benefiting from the beauty of this country. Well, I would say that for now, probably from my side, I would say I've covered at this stage. Obviously, we'll restart the conversation or the debate here. Okay, and so I think I'll leave it to you, Dusan, for getting into more specifics about the investment options and the interesting options that we can consider and give you. Just before I make myself silent, obviously again at Holborn we'll be assisting you with all the stages. Every person is dedicated for a single part, obviously, because these visa matters are complex. Immigration law is complex no matter where you're from, and it's minor details here that have to be looked at. And everybody has got their own portion of part here in assisting you and your family for your future here in Spain. All right, so thank you, and I'll leave it to you now, Dusan.
Thank you, Ricardo. Good morning, everyone, or evening. To know where everyone's based. I will share a presentation that our marketing has prepared, and the beginning of it will have most of the information Ricardo has already mentioned. So we'll be skipping through that and going straight to investment types or properties we have in our portfolio. Okay, perfect. So this is basically, I just want to focus and start the presentation by showing you the bottom left part of this presentation. What these numbers that you're seeing and on your screen are showing us at the moment is that what happened in all of real estate transactions in 2022. We're still waiting for numbers from last year, so we're working with 2022 at the moment. What you see here is that out of all transactions of real estate in Spain, only 0.17% were attributed to Golden Visa. And we believe this is a really important number to start with, because it shows that Golden Visa does not affect real estate transactions in Spain. That is important in terms of program and program's future, because once Golden Visa starts affecting the real estate transactions, meaning Spaniards not being able to purchase properties because of Golden Visa, or affecting the value of the properties in Spain, that is when politics can come into place and program can be jeopardized, which is something we've seen previously in other countries. So far, since the number is so low, the program is very much protected, and it won't be changed in the near future, is what we believe. I'm going to skip through all of these since Ricardo has already mentioned. There are 4 types of investments. We're focusing currently on real estate. This is the Golden Visa process. And this is where Ricardo finished his presentation, is essentially what happens once you have a Golden Visa. Year 2, all former colonies or Ibero-American countries can obtain Spanish citizenship. At year 3 is the first renewal of a Golden Visa. At year 5, clients, anyone with Golden Visa can choose whether they want to just keep going, renewing their Golden Visa, in which case they need to still have a qualifying investment, and all dependents need to still be qualified as dependents. So children have to be financially and parents have to be financially dependent on the main applicant. If they go with the top option, they will have permanent residency, in which case the need for investment is no longer there, and they will be considered a permanent resident of Spain, which they can renew every 5 years. And after 5 years of having permanent residency, they can apply for Spanish citizenship. I just wanted to reiterate that because it will, I will constantly be referring to it during the exit options for our properties. So that's why I just wanted to kind of point that out. In terms of investment properties, we have 3 different options in our portfolio. The first one will be the one that's most tailor-made, mostly curated for a single client or a family, and it offers maximum flexibility. That option is basically investing 500,000 euros and more into either a commercial or a residential property. This basically means that our real estate team will find, or they will purchase properties that are already within our ownership, and they can continue renting it out. They can live in, if it's residential, they can continue living in that apartment or renting it out. It's basically just purchasing a freehold property for a client. The second option is, we call it Sale-Leaseback. In the industry, it's also known as the financing option. It's basically reducing the required amount from 500 to 350. It's basically, I will go into details for all 3 of these. But basically, in a very broad views and broad explanation of this 350 option, it's the lowest capital and the minimal risk for the client. And the third option is for everyone who has been in this industry for a longer time. I think you've seen this many, many times. It's a very standard offering. It's a hotel asset that starts from 500,000 euros, and it offers guaranteed buyback and guaranteed returns. Again, it's a very hassle-free asset with a guaranteed yield, additional benefits, and a buyback. So obviously, I won't go too much into details regarding the option number one. It's essentially option that basically client will choose in the entirety of Spain, whether they want a commercial or a residential property, what 500,000 euro can offer, depending obviously on the location. It can be a residential property from 100 to 300 square meters. And I'm sorry, I'm born in the raised in imperial units, so in metric system. Sorry, so I will not know what would that be in square footage. But commercial would be 60 to 100 square meters for this amount of investment. The second option, the sale-leaseback or financing option, is essentially how we manage to make it work and reduce it. So again, required investment is 500,000. That is something that is by law and something no one can avoid. However, these properties are within our ownership. So once the client invests here, we are guaranteeing return of 3% over a 10-year period. So that means instead of paying client 15,000 euros annually for the next 10 years, we would pay that immediately upfront to the client at the very beginning when he invests. So that is how we are reducing the required investment from 500 to 350,000 euros. I hope this is now clear to everyone, how it's being reduced. What this investment will give you is a commercial space in Barcelona or Madrid that's between 60 and 100 square meters. It's in a ground floor. For those who have been to these cities, or in Barcelona, for example, this is a ground floor bar or a restaurant where you will have tapas or Starbucks, or any similar bakery or clothing shops. So basically, they already have tenants that have signed agreement for the next 10 years, and that is how we guarantee the returns. A lot of frequently asked question is what happens if a tenant drops from the contract, or what happens in that case is entirely onto us. In this 10-year period that we are guaranteeing returns, we will be property managers of this property, of this asset. So in case there's no tenant, it is entirely onto us because the client's returns have been paid upfront for the 10-year period. What happens? What is the exit strategy for this type of investment? There are two, and there is what happens before and after 10 years. We just mentioned, both Ricardo and I, that after year 5 of holding a golden visa, the client can opt to go to permanent residency, in which case the need for an investment is no longer there. They don't need to have any qualifying investment to maintain their residency. This is why they are able to exit this investment from year 5. However, since the lock-in period for this type is 10 years and we are paying returns for the 10-year period of 3%, if the client decides to exit between year 5 and year 9, they will have a penalty applied to their returns. The penalty, for example, if they decide to, at year 7, they got their permanent residency, they no longer want to be involved with this investment, we will apply 30% penalty, as opposed to for them getting 350,000 euros that they have invested back, they will get 245. In this case, between year 5 and year 9, their only exit is to sell it back to us with penalties applied. After 10-year period, after the lock-in period for the investment is over, the property is I call it freehold. It's freehold from year 1, but freehold in terms of there's no penalties. They have 3 different options to exit this investment. The first one would be selling it back to us for 350,000 euros, which is also known as the buyback. The second option, they can sell this property on the open market by themselves, and if they think they can sell it for more than over 350. And the third option would be maintain ownership of the asset and continue renting it to the existing tenant or the new tenant. It is important to note in the third one that in the first 10 years where we are maintaining the property, the client will not be liable for any income tax. Whereas after 10 years, if they continue owning it and continue renting it, that is when the income tax will come into place for the clients. And the third option, which is hotel, it's our hotel in Madrid. It's called Hotel San Blas. It will be operated by Soho Boutique Hotel. I will just change the presentation as this one hasn't been updated with the latest offering. Excuse me for one moment. Essentially, the hotel is located, as I said, in Madrid. It's located in Canillejas district. I will explain all of it now. This is the hotel is currently in construction. So these are the renderings of what features and how everything would look like. It will be located in this district that is now a technological hub of Madrid. It's for those living in Dubai. It's essentially DIFC of Madrid. Microsoft and Google already have offices there. It's located 10 minutes away from Gran Via, the city center. And the offering for this hotel basically looks like this. We're currently, it's open for 64 investors, although not all slots are available at the moment. The investment is 500,000 euros, but it's worked again that we guarantee 3% for the 10 years of operations of the hotel. And instead of paying it annually for the next 10 years or for the 10 years of operations, we will pay that upfront. So again, in this case, 150,000 euros is being paid upfront to the client. In this case, the guaranteed buyback, however, is not 350. It is 500,000 euros. So at the end of 10 years of operations, when the operator of the hotel, Soho Boutique, wants to maintain the ownership of the entire hotel, which is why they will provide a buyback of 500,000 euros to the client and get them a nice clean exit strategy. Another benefit of this project, comparing to other investing to other commercial spaces in Madrid that are brand new hotels, is that the VAT here is entirely covered by us. When purchasing a brand new asset in Madrid, the client is liable for 21% of VAT on asset. In the case of investment of 500,000 euros, the VAT is 105. So we've seen other hotels that are not covering this, so that immediately increases the qualifying investment from 500 to 605,000 euros. However, VAT is entirely covered by us, and the last. Maybe for someone not least, is they will have 7-day complimentary stay in any Soho Boutique hotel in Spain during their investment in this hotel. So those will be our three main offerings. I will just go and change it back to all three of them, so you can see them all three of them in comparison. And then if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer all of them.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much, Dusan. Thank you for being so explicative and helpful. Look, from my side, I believe again we might start some questions if there are any. Again, Spain is a very attractive has a very attractive visa program. There's many aspects that have to be looked into. So there's many stages within the entire procedure. So as I mentioned before, either you're looking at this from a distance, or at some stage you want to come over here in Spain, we'll be more than happy to meet up in person and assist you with everything, and start your process here over here to Spain, which is a great country to live in, and certainly a very high level of quality of life by all means. Not too sure how it works in terms of, it seems like we've got some, if anybody might want to participate, I think they might be putting their hand up, I believe, so probably not at this stage. So I think
I think there is a QA option, and I think we already have a question. It says, what is the expected capital appreciation of the commercial property in the option 2? So again, these are commercial spaces in the city centers of Barcelona and Madrid. Obviously, these are properties located in a very extremely touristic areas. Like, for those who know, it's Eixample, it's Gothic Quarter, it's Ciutat Vella. It's something that's overcrowded and obviously with tourists, and it's a city center. So we genuinely believe that the capital appreciation can go approximately around from 5 to between 5 to 10%, if not more. The next one, I hope that answers your question. The second one, does a Spanish golden visa make it easier to get residency work permit in the rest of the EU? Also, at one point, is Schengen access granted? So I will answer first the second one, if that's okay with you, Ricardo. Once you have a golden visa, you will have a residency card in Spain. That residency card will grant you access to Schengen immediately. So while having a card will grant you a right to live, work, and study in Spain only, it will also grant you 90 days visa-free in any Schengen country. Does it allow to get work permit in the rest of the EU? I think in that case, the best possible way to do that is to go through a citizenship route. Having a residency of Spain does not really allow a client to reside or work in other EU countries. So they will have to go with their passports to other EU countries in order to obtain a work permit. Yes. So the second one is the next question is, can my children inherit the property under option 2 if something happens to the principal? Absolutely. They can also create a will here in Spain for any properties they have, or if they don't do it, it will go by Spanish inheritance law, in which case the spouse and the children will inherit the ownership of the property or all assets in Spain.
Perfect. Thank you, Dusan. Okay. Well, I think we might be coming to an end, I'd say. Yes. Anyway, obviously we've got possibility of being contacted obviously after, so I'll be again more than happy to assist you. And I believe there's another question probably coming up now. Okay, yes, and there's a question: if I have a golden visa, will my children be considered as locals in terms of tuition? Yes, I think obviously we were mentioning about this before. So the moment you and your family are granted the visa, then in terms of tuition, when it comes to schooling, you'll be considered as a local student, and obviously you'll have access. So one of the beauty of the possibility of holding one of these visas is the fact that yes, your children will be treated as local students here in Spain.
If I may add to that, the only difference between having golden visa and a permanent residency to being a citizen of Spain is essentially you will not be able to vote on a republic level. And obviously, you will not be able to live in other European countries with just the residency. Everything else, you're equal to a local once having a golden visa or a permanent residency. Access to education, to healthcare, and anything else, it essentially equals to a local citizen.
Yes. Now, I think, Dusan, there's a question about the final stages moving towards citizenship. So, to get the full passport, do I need to spend 6 months per year in Spain for 5 years after I get the permanent residency? Yes. Okay. So things change a little bit when it comes to the second stage. Okay. So in order to get the permanent residency status, which is 5 years after obtaining the golden visa, there is no specific type of requirement when it comes to actually staying in Spain. There's no requirement of living in the country, but it does change, and things become a little bit more stricter when it comes to obtaining citizenship and therefore applying after for passport. You typically would need to show that you've actually been more present in Spain, and typically would be half the year in Spain each year for then accessing passport. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. What we suggest is spending 6 months in Spain with no absence longer than 3, in order to be basically guaranteed or increase the chances of obtaining the citizenship.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Well, I believe that should be no. Okay, they're coming through. Okay, yeah, that's.
To clarify, to become a citizen of Spain, we come from a former colony. Do we need to reside for 2 years? That is correct. Although we have had clients who haven't resided. To be perfectly clear, to obtain citizenship of Spain, spending time in Spain is not a requirement by law. It is up to the processing officer in the immigration who's gonna look at the application and determine whether there's an intent for you to become, reside, that you have resided, and that you have proven that you're, let's say, worthy of being a Spanish citizen. Your intent is to fully live in Spain. In 9 out of 10 cases, clients haven't spent, in our experience, clients haven't spent 6 months a year, and they still have gotten their citizenship. However, again, it is our recommendation to spend 6 months a year with no absence longer than 3, to be on the safe side and not be rejected for obtaining citizenship. And yes, for former colonies, that time period is reduced to 2 years, and it's 2 years once they have golden visa, not once they have permanent residency.
Yes, exactly. So it's more about, it's advisable to be more present in the country to show that you've got on more ties when it comes to showing your presence and your commitment to Spain as a country. So it's obviously important to make that effort of staying longer periods of time in Spain, especially if you want to move on to citizenship. And again, it's not a mandatory requirement, but obviously it gives you the additional passport there. There's another question I might. So, is it easier to apply for myself and add family members at a later date? I would say, obviously, it depends. If I may do so, it depends on a case-by-case situation. If the family unit per se is doesn't have any particular issues, or you don't have children who are over 18 years of age, and it might be a little bit more complicated to show the dependency from a financial point of view, then in some cases, obviously, one applicant obviously makes it a little bit more straightforward when it comes to the application. But I mean, we typically would say that if everything is in place, the entire family unit would be best to include them at the first stage rather than putting them onto the visa at a second stage. I don't know what you think, Dusan, but I believe that would be.
Yeah, I do agree with you. The only thing I would add is if children are over 18, or 18, they're still in university, so we can still prove the dependency. If the children are a little bit older than that, let's say 25 and more, I would say they should include them immediately, just so they can reach to a stage of permanent residency sooner rather than later, because at the renewal stage of Golden Visa, children and parents have to continue being financially dependent to prove financial dependency. And for someone who's 30 years old, it might be a little bit more difficult than for an 18-year-old or 10-year-old. So in that case, we would recommend the older the children are, including them immediately in the application is more advisable, let's say. The only difference between applying for a single applicant or including family members is essentially a couple of more documents that need to be translated. So it is not really more difficult.
Yes, yeah, that's obviously very important. Absolutely, because I mean, obviously, the more you go further down the track, then obviously it makes it difficult, and in some cases, not possible to include them as the family members. Yes. Moving forward, sorry, I just had to reopen the page here, so I'm not sure if I'm reading the right question.
There's one more. Are there any benefits for retired people in terms of taxation? Yes. Short answer is yes. But it is not discussing a golden visa exactly. For people who are retired and specifically, for example, British people, they will benefit from a non-lucrative visa. And actually affects everyone. Non-lucrative visa is essentially a visa that's a non-investment type of visa where clients can reside in Spain and live. They cannot work in Spain, and it's specifically tailored for retirees. They can, however, the condition is that they do live in Spain, and they will be paying taxes in Spain. They will qualify for a 24% tax. So if they live in a country where taxes on their income is higher, I believe they can benefit from a non-lucrative visa more.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.